J. Patrick Avery, and I'm here with Blaze Gaza, and we are once again doing some talky stuff.
Woot.
Welcome to Small Talk, the show where we shoot the shit, and that is my improvised one-liner for it.
Awesome.
Today we're generally just talking about horror movies. I'm looking at IMDb's top 100. I think you have another top list pulled up. Where just
yeah, I've got upcoming horror movies. What I'm looking at.
Okay. So what upcoming horror movies? What do we have to look forward to?
There's a good bunch depending on what you're into. We've got Sinister 2 is the next one coming out. The Gift just came out. If you're into more like stalker type movies,
Mm-hmm.
The Visit seems to be kind of a supernatural-ish one. And there's Before I Wake. That'll be interesting.
Before I Wake, yeah, I'm interested in that one. Krampus.
Yeah, Krampus, of course. Maybe. I don't know. The trailer's been out for a while.
According to Google, it's coming out in 2015.
Right.
So
we'll see. We'll see on that one.
That's exciting. Krampus is a Kris Kringle tale of horror, and that's all that needs to be said.
Right.
Rings.
Who knows how that's going to be?
I can't imagine it's gonna.
Scary Asian girl.
Yeah.
What's not to be afraid of.
Right. What's not to be afraid of?
Green Inferno. That's happening.
Green Inferno.
Yeah.
Although I'm not as excited for that now that I've seen the trailer, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be scary, but I feel like it's.
Well,
gonna
it's
be
Eli Roth.
satisfying.
It's gonna be cathartic and gory. That's what Eli Roth does. He's not really. I mean, Hustle was kind of scary in a way, just because it's someone's paying to torture and kill you, but it's like
kind of gross, really.
Yeah, it's more just like brutal than anything.
Yeah.
Although that is probably a thing people do in the real world somewhere.
Right.
Victor Frankenstein. I remember hearing about that. I don't actually know much about it. That just sounds like a Frankenstein reboot from what I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's just a reboot, but
right.
I'm not opposed to that. A reboot of Frankenstein.
I don't know. It's kind of overdone, I think. I don't really think it would be possibly scary.
Well, Frankenstein's not really a scary movie either. It's in the horror genre only because of what classic horror means.
Yeah.
And the book is a little bit. It still doesn't feel like a horror as much as it feels like an emotional kind of like. Victor Frankenstein is a very complicated character himself, and
it's
then
definitely a bit of social commentary too, really.
Yeah, right. There's definitely that. It's Bram Stoker wrote some good stuff though.
Yeah.
That one, The Mummy wasn't really. That one was pretty directly horror. Dracula, pretty much horror.
Right.
It was really cool storytelling style.
Dracula was all about foreigners, though.
Well, right. There is a potential like parallel you could draw there, but yeah, that one was cool. That one I mostly enjoy it for the storytelling style. It's told through like newspaper clippings and of course it's all just text written out, but it's done in the style of a newspaper clipping of a journal. There's a conversation. It's really cool in that regard. Those are all the upcoming horror movies. Crimson Peak. Don't know. The new Paranormal Activity.
Yep, the new Paranormal Activity will be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for that.
And that's all slated for 2015. That's all the horror movies coming in 2015 so far. Like, we've got that's horror does a lot. We have 2 superhero movies a year. Horror's like we got like 10 in the next 6 months.
Right, but at least they're not all related.
True.
That would be the difference there.
Yeah. So let's talk. What are some of your favorite? Let's start with a singular movie. What's your favorite single horror movie? Or if you have a couple.
So that really depends because the horror genre is very wide and split.
Right.
So probably my favorite of all time is not like a scary horror movie. It's definitely a campy, and that would be The Craft.
The Craft.
I don't know. It's wonderful. It's kind of from my childhood. It's about random witches.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Like scary wise, I would still probably say The Strangers.
Strangers is very good.
Down by random
people,
yeah,
just some total psychopaths who just decide to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's.
Last House on the Left also in that style.
Yeah.
You're next, but there was the original, I guess, like Clockwork Orange, but that was. I'm honestly not a big fan of Clockwork Orange. It's like the one thing Kubrick let me down on.
I haven't seen it. That has been on my list for a while, but I feel like that one's more of a. That's more in that vein of like,
shock value.
well, and it's kind
It's
of like that social commentary, like 1982 kind of.
right, right.
The future is gonna screw us all.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
idea.
We're all gonna get ruined by the
Yeah.
things we're doing in the world we live in, and
Not that that's not scary, just
no, but
not
it's not really
necessarily
like a no, and it's not really scary. It's kind of like a. It's just like I don't want to say torture porn because that brings the wrong image to mind, but
Sure.
pretty much, you know what I mean. It's just hey, here's a scene of some random psychopaths doing their thing. It's not really. I don't get any character development out of it. I'm sure in the story I haven't actually read the book, so I don't. I'm sure they go through the thoughts of people.
Right.
Funny People was a decent one. The German version
I
is.
didn't actually see it. It's been on my queue for a while though.
It's a pretty good remake. The original German version is better only because of the way they handle the fourth wall, because that's a
German
small
version
thing
might
in
be
the.
on.
It's the better version, I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
The Germans put out a lot of good horror movies. There was one called I want to say it was just Das Experiment. Yeah, I think it
That
was.
sounds familiar too.
It's based on a true story. I don't know honestly the details of the original story, so I don't know how accurate it is. But and it's not really a horror per se, but it's people are paid some amount of money. They go for 12 days or 14 days.
Yeah.
And you all just live in prison, and half of you will randomly be assigned to be guards, and half of you will randomly be assigned prisoners, and you all collect a large amount of money.
The like Stanford experiment.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, it devolves very quickly, as it always does in the real world too. The people who are told to be the guard, it's the only rule is you can't use violence. Well, that is a pretty vague rule, and it of course will devolve into violence. And it's a pretty cool. There was a 2001, looks like, American version, Oliver Hirschbiegel.
Sure.
Totally heard of him. The 2001 American version, I haven't seen it, but I'm inclined to guess it's not as good. What else has he done just to be? Oh, 13 Minutes. That's one that's coming out this year. So, Downfall is another movie he did. Okay, so he's done some stuff.
Yeah.
The Invasion was his.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So he's actually got a pretty good reputation. I shouldn't be talking shit. Okay, so have you seen how many of the campy like 80s Evil Dead style horror movies have you seen?
A
bunch. Have you ever seen one called Dead and Breakfast?
I have not.
Dead and Breakfast is one of the wildest. I think for a long time before Eli Roth was out, I think it held the distinction of. Oh dang! It's from 2004. It is so okay. Well, I'll tell you what. It is one of the cheesiest movies I've ever seen. Even more so now.
Right.
It really, it's demons taking over bed and breakfast, but it's like this is the one where the lawnmower.
Is it a musical though?
There's musical comedy.
Because if you want a good cheesy musical horror movie, there's always Poultrygeist.
Poultrygeist. I knew you were gonna say Poultrygeist. But there's also Evil Dead 4D.
There's that.
And that's not one, unfortunately, that everyone can get.
Right.
And one day in the future, when we have our like live visual craziness.
Right.
But yeah, Poultrygeist. That's it's like Chicken Nuggets Rebellion kind of thing. Basically.
Yeah. It's kind of a PETA horror movie.
Right.
Which just makes it funnier. To be perfectly honest.
Another PETA horror movie, Zombievers.
Yes.
That movie is quite amazing. It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, watch Zombievers tonight. Do it. It's amazing. It's not musical, but it's
not musical.
It's ridiculous. You look at the box cover for it, and the cover is just a beaver and a woman in a bikini, and it's their silhouettes, and that really that is as awesome as it sounds. I promise. You're gonna look at it and go, "What?" And there were so many moments in the movie where we were just like, I hate you so much. Why would you do that? What's going on here? No wonder you're dying.
Right.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so good. Oh, dude. One of the funniest horror movies I've seen. And it's Canadian. Go. It is Canadian, right?
I have no idea.
I think it was.
I think you're just saying that because it had beavers.
I was just thinking that. I might just be displacing no, it's initial DVD release US, but who's the company that makes it?
Good question.
Or the writer. I mean, if it's US release, it's probably just a US movie, which makes it even. Yeah, it's an American 3D horror, so I stand corrected. I'm sorry, Canada, for displacing my beaver. I just assume, you know?
Right.
Kid, who else has beavers?
Uh,
Who else would think of that movie? There's well, this has cognies versus zombies. There was a movie called, I want to say, when I was like 14 or 15, I saw it, and it was called Australian Zombies on the HBO Charter cable,
I have no
um,
idea.
like the on
Yeah,
demand
yeah,
thing. And I watched it, and it was this wild journey, man. And it's spoiler alert. This one's I can't find it anywhere, and I don't. Australian Zombies isn't the title, and I've tried looking for it a hundred
Right.
ways. I just can't. I can't find it. If anybody knows it, put it in the comments. I'm dying to find the title of the movie so I can show everyone. But what happens is a zombie outbreak happens. It's they start in a hospital and it follows the story. And they end up in this farmland where they meet this wild naked farmer who pulls guns out of who knows where, and he's just like he's just a badass from the beginning. He's the reason we're gonna survive character. And then they go through this whole thing, and in the end, there's a whole twist that involves aliens, and it's completely wild, and it's fantastic. It's so highly produced, and it's so like just like they do really good job of using like blue, like really sepia kind of not sepia. Sepia is yellow. Wait, hold on. Is sepia yellow? I am not a
I
visual
have no
design
idea.
person. I'm
Yeah.
a music and English person.
Yeah.
Yeah, sepia is that yellow tone. Anyway, it's like they have a blue filter over the whole thing, so everything is like natural looking, but then it just like it looks kind of dull. And when you see the twist, I kind of understand why they did it because the way they explain it, and that I won't spoil because then there'd be no point in watching the movie.
Right,
but
right.
it made sense why they did some of their cinematography choices, and that for me was even like it's just like so well done. I can't praise it enough, but I don't know what it's called and I can't find it.
I hate that. I hate that. There was a sci-fi original horror movie I saw a long time ago. I watched like half of it. I was like, oh, I'll find it again later. I'll watch the other half because it was late and it needed to crash. I have no idea what it was. It was like about some like chick and her husband in China, and their son is like seeing ghosts. And I've looked for a bunch of different things under different names, and it's always the wrong thing.
Yeah, I
have no idea what the hell it was.
I can't figure it out on some movies, and it makes me really sad.
Yeah.
Did you ever see The Langoliers when that came out, or since then?
It's been a long time. It's been a long time, but I have seen it.
I saw it. I think it's on Netflix now. I saw it on TV a while ago on Sci-Fi Channel. Those things are actually like I would not mind seeing a reboot of that movie with better technology. Like,
right.
Because the whole reason that movie kind of sucks is A, it's a TV movie. It was a couple of TV movies.
Right.
And B, they just like 1995 CG on ABC Network. Like even Marvel's Agents of Shield, Joss Whedon's 2015 budget, the CG's not that great.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Stephen King's work should just be left as books. Like
a lot of the times I agree. Well,
I still haven't seen one of his books made into something that I can really say was.
What about Cujo? The Shining.
Yeah, even The Shining. The Shining was good, but it
wasn't on with the book though. That's true.
It wasn't on par.
It wasn't connected. Well, the ending was what it veered off a little too far, and I love the movie and I love the book both, but the book has the better ending. Same thing with I Am Legend. And in I Am Legend, they even like tested it with an audience and decided to switch it out. And it's like, no, dude, you had the better ending to start with, and then your panel of like 9 people who live in LA or whatever told you not to do that. You know, come on, Hollywood, get your shit together.
Seriously.
Ash vs. Evil Dead coming out. Evil Dead's a great horror franchise. Army of Darkness. Yeah. Evil Dead 4D, the TV series now. What other like franchises? What's your favorite ongoing or went on for a long time?
I know a lot of people don't care for it, but I really love Paranormal Activity.
You know,
there's the interconnectivity within the series, as well as how they managed to pull things off, especially in the first one. I think definitely the first one was the best because you have that period at the beginning where everything's kind of coincidental. You know, you have that feeling of, am I just being a little nuts, or is there like something going on here? I really like that when a ghost movie is able to kind of pull that off.
And it's one of those things too. Because I saw the first 3, and the reason I stopped watching is because they kept doing that, like you were talking about earlier, just like back in time. Like I'm not really that Like I wasn't invested enough, but then I learned later that they are like interconnected that way, and that like sparked my interests a lot more. I need to eventually go back and watch the other 5 now 6
Right. And
movies.
looking back on them, it's kind of nice because there's this kind of slow build to bigger and bigger and bigger stuff, which, as you're watching it, it's can be kind of difficult because it kind of feels like they're just trying to top themselves. They're just being like, what can we do that's crazier next? That's gonna blow people's minds. But there is like an actual story there, and we're kind of learning more and more throughout the series, and that's what I like about it. It's
right. There's a full what's the word? Well, there's a history. There's a story. There's like there's a wiki for it.
Right.
If you merit a wiki, it's worth watching.
Right.
What about the Saw franchise? That was a pretty divisive one, really.
I really like the first Saw.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great kind of almost social commentary piece, as well as just
right. It was kind of silly look at the incompetent police, but also just the
Well, and just a very interesting look into human nature. After that, I can't really say I cared for them so much.
How many of them did you see?
I've seen at least 5 of them.
At least 5 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure like I missed like one in the middle, and I haven't seen the last one. But like
when we saw the third one, say the second one's not really as great as the first one,
right?
And there's a lot of plot holes. But ignoring that, and some of those plot holes get solved by the next few movies anyway, which is one of the one of those don't be too quick to judge. We live in a world of franchises. Saw was one of the beginning experiments for that. Paranormal Activity as well came out when we started doing the franchise forever kind of thing. Other than that, we had Freddy and Michael Myers and Jason, and those are the only real franchises. Everything else pretty much does sequels, trilogies, and then but after we saw the third one, we were like, there's no way they're gonna like stay. This was like almost the best one, but it wasn't. So they're on a downhill trend, and we all looked at each other and we were like, they always come out on Halloween. We kind of have to like make this pact to finish them, right? Like this is our Halloween thing. We've done it for 3 years, and we started in when we were kids, and then we go through high school together. And the last one came out my first year of college, and or my second year of college. When did the last one come out?
Like not too terribly.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
2010 is my second year of college. But yeah, I saw those both with college friends. I didn't see them with my high school friends, but I like to think all my high school friends went to college together, and they probably finished out the series.
Sure.
And I'll be really pissed if I ever go back and find out that they chose to just bail on it because it did not.
We're waiting for you, man.
No,
I don't know. My problem with the Saw series is that like after the third one, they're kind of indistinguishable from one another.
They are, and even with they do the same interconnected story thing, but it's the way they try to play with time to be unique is really just off-putting.
Well, and the interconnected story gets really convoluted. Where like if you haven't watched like the last 3,
you can't even follow the movie
you're
anymore.
Like, who the hell?
Right. It's not one, and that's why Paranormal Activity is still going because they came up with you could drop in on any of those movies and follow along.
Yeah, and the thing is like you can watch any of the movies independently and not really understand where the connection is.
Right.
And then when it's pointed out, you're like, oh.
Okay,
right.
And if you're someone who they're Easter egg diggers, we're on internet land. There are plenty of people who want to find that in franchises. The thing that ruined it for me was the Saw where they featured Chester from Linkin Park. And so his scene, spoiler alert, no one cares. It's Saw, but he's
the last movie came out 5 years ago, people.
He's glued to a car. Like just glued to the leather upholstery.
Yeah.
And it's like super glue, and it's like he's gonna like rip off all his skin getting off and all that, right? But if he doesn't, he can't reach the brakes because apparently he's a short guy or something. Like I don't know exactly how it works. He has to do something. I don't remember the details because I've tried my best to expunge it from my memory. But for whatever reason, if he doesn't do it, everybody else dies in their various grotesque ways. His best friend gets crushed by the car itself, and then the other people get like maybe I think one of them gets like quartered or something, and but all he has to do, like, okay, yeah, it's gonna hurt a lot, but it's only gonna take off your top layer of skin, and if you don't do it, 4 other people and you are gonna die anyway. Like, and like his friend, I'll give it back 1 point on this. His friend goes, "Just do it, you pussy!" And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Like, just fucking man up. That's not scary or like it's just painful, dude. It's not like The guy in Saw 3 who's got the hook through his jaw and like all like that guy should be scared as fuck.
Right,
right. Like,
or in like,
oh no, I'm blue.
It was either 2 or 3 where she's like got a vat of acid she's got to dig a key out of, like.
Yeah.
And then the key doesn't work.
The key doesn't work. Like,
alert, it was
bitch.
fucked up. But yeah.
And there's a whole story about those traps too, like
right.
those ones that are just inescapable traps.
Right. Yeah.
That's a fun.
But my real problem is that with the filming style and all the different torture devices, they really became like ubiquitous.
Right. It's hard to imagine it, but it does become mundane after a while.
Which exact movie was the acid hand scene in? You know,
I think the fourth one, but I can't even remember.
Right, like where it was like it gets hard to remember because
I can't even remember which one is the first one to talk about the traps that or the unwinnable games, the one like the mausoleum scene and the fucking like I can't even I don't even remember if the mausoleum was one of the unwinnable ones. I might not have think about it. That might have been later. The house was the second one.
That was the second
and
one.
And those were all...
That was creepy.
It was creepy. Well, what I liked about it, and I don't really like, as a movie, it's not that great, but what I did like is that each of the traps was designed such that all of them could have survived if they used teamwork.
Right.
And, you know, that at least there's a good message there, but also that's a fair, like, realistic thing. The razors in the box and all this, and it's like, if anyone else had gone in with her, someone would have gone, no, wait, look, it's only 3 sides of the box. You can just reach around and grab it. Right. You know, the pit of needles, they could have, I mean, you could have come up with something.
Yeah.
That would have been a hard one.
There's probably a shovel sitting around somewhere.
Right, there's a shovel, or, I mean, if nothing else, you could do like a body train and someone will pick them up one at a time really carefully. I don't know, there's always a way. Yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Right.
The kid never being in danger was a decent twist.
Right.
But just the filming and the style and the scripting were just not up to par.
Yeah.
Directors. You got any particular directors?
No
idea. What about Eli Roth? Well, yeah. Let's start with Eli Roth. We got about 10 minutes left. He's done Hostel. He's done Cabin Fever. He's done.
Yeah.
He had his House of Gore here, which was like actually just like a bar or something, and I was like. That's not
like... It was like a haunted house walkthrough.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. They were trying to give me coupons for it, and I was like...
Yeah, like they had drinks. But no, it was like an actual like haunted house.
Does it come back every...
I have no idea. I don't think so.
I think it closed down altogether.
I think they put something else there.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's very much in that kind of torture porn genre.
Right.
Which, like, I kind of understand why people... enjoy it, but at the same time, I just find it to be kind of an inferior form of storytelling.
Right. It's kind of, well, I don't want to say weak, but it is in a way to say that this movie is scary because it's violent and because it's bloody and because it's sadistic, you know what I mean? That's not...
I thought the first Hostel was honestly pretty boring. I actually like the second one just because of the main character. Like, she was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I like the third one because they actually killed kids.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty, like, rare thing to do, and it's not that I condone baby killing or child killing, but, you know, it's a crowd of kids trying to eat this guy, and in all the other movies I've seen in horror movies, it's like the kids always live or win, or only a demon can kill them, you know what I mean? And then it's like, this guy who just doesn't want to die fights them off and murders a bunch of them. It's pretty wild.
Right.
But yeah, he's just like, yeah, it's all... what about... Guillermo del Toro, who I did not even realize did the screenplay for The Battle of Five Armies.
Oh, interesting. I like Del Toro, but I don't really think of him as being like a horror producer.
Well, and when you look at his list of stuff, Pacific Rim, and he wrote Pan's Labyrinth, he wrote Hellboy. Hellboy counts as horror in a very strict sense.
It's more comic fantasy.
But it's more fantasy.
Like Pan's Labyrinth had a fear element, but it was
but it was not a horror. It was definitely a fantasy. I agree with that sentiment.
It was kind of like a more fucked up Totoro, really.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. We got about 5 minutes left. Let's talk about a classic. How much Kubrick have you seen? Have you seen like?
You'd have to name stuff. I'm terrible with names.
A Space Odyssey, 2001.
Yeah.
The Shining.
Yeah.
A Clockwork Orange, I think, was him. Those are his
big ones.
Biggest. Let me look. I'm sure I'm missing a few that are big. That are. He's done a fair number of movies. We have and short films and all that. Let me just scroll down to his. This is small talk. It's all just off the cuff BSing, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, Space
This one will
Odyssey
probably have
and
to
The
be
Shining
rated
were both
for
done really well. I really
reboots.
like his storytelling style. I mean, The Shining was about as close to a Stephen King novel as I've seen.
Right. Right, it's about as close as it gets.
Right, that would really be the best version of a Stephen King
right.
novel.
Oh, Doctor Strangelove, he did Lolita.
Oh, okay.
If you ever saw Lolita, that's based on
I didn't actually
a Nabokov book.
Right, right.
The Killing was his. Oh, dang, he's been doing a lot of movies. Full Metal Jacket, which was a different kind of horror movie.
Right, right.
That's definitely. I knew I was missing a big one somewhere. And Eyes Wide Shut, but I've never seen that one. I don't.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
It says here the 2001 film AI Artificial Intelligence was dedicated to Kubrick.
Oh.
He was supposed to. It says Kubrick originally had the rights to the source material, provided the concept for the film, and did much of the groundwork, including supervising story treatment and et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha.
And then, he died.
It happens.
Sad.
Right.
How old was he when he died? That's a real sad moment. Hitchcock, also a classic horror director.
Right.
Yeah, he had a very classical horror sense, I think. Yeah, he died in '99, and he was working until the day he died.
Wow.
Hitchcock is good. Psycho,
The
Birds, yeah.
Etc.
The Birds, much better than Birdemic.
Right.
Much better than that scene in The Core. Does The Core count as a horror movie? Have you ever seen that one? It's Aaron Eckhart and some other famous people, and the planet stops rotating, and they have
an environmental disaster movie.
Yeah, but it's
technically a horror genre.
It is a horror genre, right? Yeah. Those all fall in. It's it's worth watching.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's good, but I'll say it's fun. I definitely enjoyed it.
So that's what was the one that just happened? The earthquake one with the rock?
Oh, yeah. San Andreas.
Yeah, San Andreas. I would see it because of the rock.
Oh, yeah. The rock,
But I don't know.
He's the franchise saver these days, right? Like, any movie he's in is going to sell.
Right.
He was in Pain and Gain, which, while not really a horror movie, it's a pretty black comedy.
Yeah, that's definitely more in the thriller,
right,
kind of. And yeah, that was a good movie.
There is some grotesquerie to it, and there is some
that did have Marky Mark too.
Right, Marky Mark.
Let's be honest.
All those big buff guys.
Right.
And then we had.
Ridiculous.
What else did The Rock do? Apocalyptic movies. Do they generally count as horror, or are they more on the sci-fi side most of the time?
That's kind of the mix there. Yeah.
Right. It kind of blends between them. I can't really think of. Oh, I was about to say I can't think of a sci-fi horror, but we have even Aliens.
Yeah.
The most important horror movie of a long time.
And Predator and Aliens versus Predator.
Right. And Aliens versus Predator. Oh yeah, that's awesome. And it happens to plug the upcoming box talk, so that works too.
Right.
Which is a thing that I want to try to accidentally do as much as possible. I think we've done it a few times here. It's actually why I wore the shirt again.
Nice.
But it's horrors. It's a lot of fun, man. There's been some of where would you rank it as far as genres? Is it your favorite genre?
It's definitely up there. I don't know that I necessarily have a favorite genre in general.
Yeah,
it's definitely one of my go-tos.
Right.
If I'm bored looking on Netflix,
right, trying to find something new that I don't want to get too invested in, and then you end up being that was way more than I bargained for.
Right.
That happens a lot. Those Netflix horrors, I'm surprised how much high quality horror there is out there, because there's a lot of B movie stuff, but even that's turning out good these days.
Right.
Which we've learned it more or less. I think there's a long way to go, but we've come a long way.
For sure.
I remember the 80s. The 70s. Night of the Living Dead, but that doesn't even count as horror. But
right.
I mean, it does, I guess. But it's it's a zombie movie. I kind of have that as a separate genre from horror.
Yeah, just about right.
Yeah, and it was a social,
mm-hmm.
thing as well, on consumerism.
Right.
But that takes us up pretty much to time.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining. It's always fun to do these things.
Right.
Please, like, comment, subscribe. We're trying to build a little bit of a base here. We've got a lot of stuff planned. It's going to be getting more and more content. We would love to have your support. We would love to have your opinions. And, just, all the relevant media will be linked in the description below. And otherwise, J. Patrick Avery,
Blaze Gaza.
We're signing off.